Schroeder. I'm very happy to be here today. When Michelle asked me to do this, to be honest, I had never really heard of digital citizenship before. It was a new concept to me, a new idea. But now leaving today, I was with you yesterday, and I did the work, all the workshops yesterday, and was very impressed, inspired, and I feel better myself, and now being able to be a better citizen myself, but also helping my children and my sphere of influence that I have. Yeah, a little bit about my background. So I am currently finishing my second year, and I'm getting my master's in business at Northwestern University up in Chicago. And so having a great time, but I'm going to bring a little bit of business school to you today. So before going to Northwestern, I was working at Harvard Business School for 3 years. And so I've been in this business school scene for a while now, and so we're going to have a little business school class today. So I hope you have fun with it. We're going to, there's going to maybe be some cold calling. I want some participation. I may put you on the spot, and we're going to even do a mini case study today. So if you don't know what a case study is, you're like, what in the world is he talking about? You're going to find out really soon. So it's going to be fun. But I'm going to be talking about this job to be done theory. And you may or may not have ever heard of this, but this is a life changer for me. It has completely changed the way that I see the world, and I hope that this will be helpful and useful in some way to you as well. I had some incredible mentors over the past 5 years of my life that have really shaped the way that I think and has helped me to learn a lot of these ideas that I'm going to be sharing with you today. This is Clayton Christensen. If you don't know who he is, he's a professor at the Harvard Business School. He is has an incredible mind, a great thinker. He's been the author of many books. These are some of my favorites that he's written. I think he's written like a dozen books. The Innovator's Dilemma, The Innovator's Solution. If you ever have heard about disruption, well, he coined that term in the business world, and so when you think about digital disruption, he is really the brains behind that idea. And then Competing Against Luck, which actually addresses jobs to be done. So if you hear some things today and you want to learn a little bit more, I suggest reading that book. And then my personal favorite, How You Measure Your Life. Great books. But Clay's been a great mentor for me. Some of the things I have taken away from him are, here's the two quotes that I used to hear him say quite frequently. Questions create spaces in the brain for solutions to fall into. Questions, being inquisitive, asking questions is so key, it's so important. It creates opportunity for us to learn. Good theory teaches you not what to think, but how to think. Okay, and these theories and ideas that I'm going to share with you today, I'm not going to try to tell you what to think. I'm hoping that by learning these theories and these frameworks will give you, almost like your own personal, another tool to add to your skill set. Of teaching you not what to think, but teaching you how to think. Another mentor of mine has been this man named Bob Moesta, where Clay is the theorist, Bob is the practitioner of the jobs to be done theory. And so I'm actually working on a project right now with Bob. As people hear about jobs to be done, they often, see the power behind it. They want to do more with it. They want to apply it. But going from understanding jobs to be done and actually applying it has been a difficulty for many. And so we're actually working on how do we bridge that gap? How do we build materials and processes to help people actually apply these ideas? But Bob, here's a quote from him. The struggling moment is the seed of all innovation. The struggling moment is key. If whatever you're doing in life, if you're developing a new product, you're developing a new service, you're trying to do a new thing with your parenting, whatever it is, if it's not addressing a struggling moment, then your thoughts are going to fall on deaf ears. Okay, it has to address a struggling moment. And so I really hope, I was really impressed yesterday to see the diversity of the crowd we have today. We have legislators, we have educators, we have parents, we have entrepreneurs. And I hope that you're able to take these ideas and apply them to your own life and in your own responsibility, because I think that these are very powerful. So to start off, for us to be able to get into this, lay the groundwork, we need to understand the difference between causality and correlation. And to do that, I'm going to share an example. So if we look back on the history of flight, in the hundreds of years ago, people would observe birds, see these beautiful eagles flying around, and say, you know what? Why can't we fly as humans? We should be able to fly like birds. And so they would try to figure it out. And so they would look at a bird like this and they say, all right, what do I observe? I see that this bird has wings, and I see this bird has feathers. And so what would they do? Men would actually create contraptions that had wings and had feathers. They put them on, they'd get on top of a building and actually jump off, right? Hoping that they would be able to fly. But what they were observing was not causality, they were observing correlation. The wings and the feathers only correlated with the bird's ability to fly. It did not actually cause the bird to fly. It wasn't until smart people like Daniel Bernoulli came along who actually discovered things like this shape right here, which is called an airfoil. And what an airfoil does is that as air passes over the airfoil, it actually causes what we call lift. It causes the wing to be pushed up and actually produces lift, which actually is one of the things that actually causes flight to happen. And so this idea of understanding what is correlation, what is causality. A couple other examples you hear about, in parenting sometimes, here's a parenting example where people talk about, parents who put their children into music, have them do music when they're young, those kids are going to be smarter in life. Okay, are we observing a correlation here, or are we observing a causality? Did music actually make you smarter? Or is it that parents, on average, who put their children in music, on average, tend to be a little bit more engaged with their kids? They tend to push their kids a little more. They tend to have higher standards for them. And so they're maybe that's what's more driving towards the causality. I'm not against music at all. My wife's a professional violinist. Our kids play music, but it's important to understand what's causality, what's correlation. Another favorite example I heard, I saw this study that said that as ice cream sales increase, homicides actually increase. Have you heard that one? Okay, so watch out, right? In summertime, as ice cream sales start to go up, you should probably stay in your house, right? The ice cream sales obviously isn't causing homicides to happen, it's correlated. So what is a job to be done? A job to be done is the progress that a person is trying to make in a particular circumstance. It's key to understanding why people make the choices that they make. Why? It's all about progress, and it's about the why. We want to understand why are people trying to progress from point A to point B. There's something fundamentally happening in their life that's causing them to try to progress. The whole idea is that people don't just buy products and services, they hire them to make progress in their life. This language is important, that people aren't just buying things or participating in a certain behavior. They are hiring that behavior, or they're hiring a product, or they're hiring a service to do something for them in their life. So, the clothes that we wear, the shoes that we buy, the furniture we buy in our house, whatever, we're hiring that to do a job in our life. We're trying to make progress. Okay, and it's key. Jobs Are Done theory seeks to understand what is that progress that people are trying to make. I'm actually going to bring a little bit of Clayton Christensen to us right now, and we're going to watch. Hold on, before we get there, Clay will come in just a second. So, Jobs to be Done theory puts the focus on the why rather than the what. Focusing on the why will bring in deeper, richer insights for successful innovation. So this actually isn't a new idea. This concept has been around for a while. In fact, Ted Levitt in 1960 at Harvard Business School, he told people that whenever someone goes to a hardware store and they buy a 1/4-inch drill, what they're wanting is not a 1/4-inch drill, they're wanting a 1/4-inch hole. Right? It's not about the drill, it's not about the 1/4-inch drill, it's about the hole. That's really what they're wanting. They're hiring the drill to get that done. And then you can even take it deeper than that and say, well, why does someone want a 1/4-inch hole? Well, I want to put a fixture into my wall. Well, why do you want to put a fixture in your wall? Well, I want to be able to plug in a lamp. Well, why do you want to plug in a lamp? Well, when it's dark outside, I want to be able to have a lamp on so I can sit and read my book. Okay? And so really, that's the progress that someone's trying to make, and they're seeing the whole as a means to the end. So it's understanding the progress. And you look at Amazon with their Kindle, they're helping people make the same progress, but it has nothing to do with drills and holes, right? The same progress is being made. It helps you, it broadens your mind to be able, if you understand people's progress, then you can innovate in ways that you wouldn't have been able to see before. So the what focuses on solutions, features, benefits. You see so much marketing today focusing on the features and benefits of our product and service, when the features and benefits really are not what's causing people to make the progress. It's more about the why. What job are they trying to get done? It's about the progress. It's about the context. It's about the outcomes that people are seeking. That's what really attracts people to do something over something else. Okay, now we're gonna play this video from Clayton Christensen. This is one of his kind of famous examples that he gives on jobs to be done theory.
Hi, my name's Clay Christensen. I'm a professor at the Harvard Business School. I brought with me a set of puzzles, all related to innovation. We decided that the way we teach marketing is at the core of what makes motivation difficult to achieve. The most helpful way we've thought of it so far is that we actually hire products to do things for us. And understanding what job we have to do in our lives for which we would hire a product is really the key to cracking this problem of motivating customers to buy what we're offering. So I wanted just to tell you a story about a project we did for one of the big fast food restaurants. They were trying to goose up the sales of their milkshakes. They had just studied this problem up the gazoo. They brought in customers who fit the profile of the quintessential milkshake consumer. And they'd give them samples and ask, could you tell us how we can improve our milkshakes so you'd buy more of them? Do you want it chocolatey or cheaper, chunky or chewier? They get very clear feedback. They would then improve the milkshake on those dimensions, and it had no impact on sales or profits whatsoever. So one of our colleagues went in with a different question on his mind, and that was, I wonder what job arises in people's lives that cause them to come to this restaurant to hire a milkshake. So we stood in a restaurant for 18 hours one day and just took very careful data. What time did they buy these milkshakes? What were they wearing? Were they alone? Did they buy other food with it? Did they eat it in the restaurant or drive off with it? It turned out that nearly half of the milkshakes were sold before 8 o'clock in the morning. The people who bought them were always alone. It was the only thing they bought, and they all got in the car and drove off with it. So to figure out what job they were trying to hire it to do, we came back the next day and stood outside the restaurant so we could confront these folks as they left, milkshake in hand. And in language that they could understand, we essentially asked, excuse me please, but I got to sort this puzzle out. What job were you trying to do for yourself that caused you to come here and hire that milkshake? And they'd struggle to answer, so we'd then help them by asking other questions like, well, think about the last time you were in the same situation, needing to get the same job done, but you didn't come here to hire a milkshake. What did you hire? And then as we put all of their answers together, it became clear that they all had the same job to do in the morning, and that is they had a long and boring drive to work. And they just needed something to do while they drove to keep the commute interesting. One hand had to be on the wheel, but somebody had given them another hand and there wasn't anything in it. And they just needed something to do while they drove. They weren't hungry yet, but they knew they'd be hungry by 10 o'clock. So they also wanted something that would just pull down there and stay for their morning. Good question. What do I hire when I do this job? You know, I've never framed the question that way before, but last Friday I hired a banana to do the job. Take my word for it, never hire bananas. They're gone in 3 minutes, you're hungry by 7:30. If you promise not to tell my wife, I probably hire donuts twice a week, but they don't do it well either. They're gone fast, they crumb all over my clothes, they get my fingers gooey. Sometimes I hire bagels, but as you know, they're so dry and tasteless. Then I have to steer the car with my knees while I'm putting jam on them, and then if the phone rings, we got a crisis. I remember I hired a Snickers bar once, but I felt so guilty I've never hired Snickers again. Let me tell you, when I come here and hire this milkshake, it is so viscous that it easily takes me 20 minutes to suck it up that thin little straw. Who cares what the ingredients are? I don't. All I know is I'm full all morning and it fits right here in my cup holder. Well, it turns out that the milkshake does the job better than any of the competitors, which in the customers' minds are not Burger King milkshakes, but it's bananas, donuts, bagels, Snickers bars, coffee, and so on. But I hope you can see how, if you understand the job, how to improve the product becomes just obvious.
That's Clayton Christensen. That's his classic example, talk about milkshakes, but it helps you understand it more intuitively. Like, the people were hiring that milkshake to perform a job for them in their life, right? And where you might have thought that a milkshake was competing against the milkshake, that's not the case. The milkshake was competing against a banana, against the bagel, right? And so it broadens your mind to understand how you can innovate to help serve that progress that people are trying to make.
Jay.
Yes, please.
So you got to finish the story. So what did they do to respond to that?
Okay, yeah, so let me finish the story. So what they actually did, this company, is they actually made the milkshake more thick. They made it thicker, so it took people longer to suck it up a straw, right? They actually, knowing that people were using it for commuting, they actually built a machine out in front so that people could come in, swipe their card, and be in and out quicker, right? Because they're trying to get back to their commute. And so you understand the progress that people are trying to make, and you make it easier for them to make that progress. So, what's that? They did not, right? Because people, who cares? Who cares? That's not the progress they're trying to make. Who cares if it's more healthy? Because it's, at the end of the day, it's a milkshake at 7:30 in the morning, right? And so they were not, being healthy had nothing to do with the progress that they were trying to make. It was all about having this long, boring commute and being able to engage with something while you're driving. Make sense? And please, by the way, I love the questions. If you have questions while I'm talking, something's not clear, or you want to ask something, please raise your hand, okay? Or just speak up. Remember, we're in business school today. Yeah?
It's another way of saying this, that you're really not selling a product, you're selling transformation.
Absolutely. You're selling progress. That's what you're selling. You're understanding what progress are people trying to make. How do I get them to do that? A quick parenting example I just thought of too is my 6-year-old son. We get a call from his teacher, and apparently at recess he was outside playing and he had a ball, and some other kids stole the ball from him. My son got the ball back, and then this boy comes up and punches the ball out of my son's hand, right? And so my son goes up and pushes him down. He gets in trouble. The teacher tells us about it, and my first reaction was sit down with my son and talk about, even when people are being mean to you, you can choose to be kind, right? It's a good principle to teach. And so I teach this to him, we sit down, we have this great discussion, and then afterwards I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you know what, I don't think I really got to the root core cause here. I taught him a good principle, but I had to ask myself, and it might sound silly me saying this, but like, what progress was my son trying to make in that circumstance where he felt he needed to hire his fists to make that progress? What progress was he trying to make? It turns out, he was going from feeling very embarrassed. He felt, threatened, and he saw that amongst the options, the competitive set that he could have chosen in that moment, that his fists would do the better job than anything else, right? And so that's what he hired to get that job done. But once I understand what progress he's trying to make, right, then I can actually sit down and have a good conversation with him about, okay, how did you feel in that moment? What progress were you trying to make here in this moment? And I'm not going to use these words with him, but what progress are you trying to make? And let's talk about what else you could have hired to make that progress instead of your fists, right? Let's talk about what we could have done in that situation. Make sense? Yeah? Okay. So we're going to talk now about Oh, I guess it's, oh, there it is. I'm not sure if it's, yep, there, now it's working. Okay, we're going to talk about Snickers bars. So my colleague Bob Moesta, he was hired early on in his career to do a project with Snickers, and he meets with the Snickers team and they say, look, we have a problem. Our Snickers bars are made by the same company as Milky Way. We're under the same umbrella, and we just hate those guys. Okay, we have to beat the Milky Way guys. Like we're in the same office. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but Snickers bars and Milky Way bars are made on the exact same production line with the exact same ingredients, right? Except for the nuts that are in the Snickers, right? But other than that, they're virtually the same thing. So we need to figure out how to beat these guys. And so, Bob comes in, and one of the first things he does, he's heading back home after having this initial meeting with Snickers. He's in the airport, and he sees a man go and buy a Snickers bar and go sit back down, and he's like, all right, here's my opportunity, right? So he goes and sits down next to this man and says, sorry to bother you, but can I just ask you a question? I noticed that you just bought a Snickers bar. Why did you choose that Snickers bar? And he starts having this conversation with this man. It turns out he says, look, I have things I have to get done right now. I don't have time to actually eat a full meal, but I'm hungry and I'm kind of low on energy right now, and I just need something I can eat. And he sits there and I'm able to plow through what I'm trying to get done. And he's like, all right. And so he goes and he has more conversations with people about Snickers bars, and he keeps hearing this recurring theme, right? Of I'm buying the Snickers bar so that I can continue to do what I'm doing right now because I can't stop. I can't take time to eat a full meal. Okay, great. Goes and talks to people with the Milky Way bars, and he's sitting down with this woman, and she says, look, when's the last time you had a Milky Way bar? Well, I just had one, last night. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And she's telling this story about how she ate this Milky Way bar, and she says, look, I came home from work. I had a rough day. It was just a really stressful day at work. I came home, was trying to decide what to do, so I decided I was going to go for a run. So I put my running clothes on, and before I left the house, I was like, all right, I'm going to go for a run, but instead I'm just going to have a Milky Way bar, right? And so he's like, what? You were going to go running, but then you had a Milky Way bar? Like, these are very different things. It turns out that the Snickers bar and the Milky Way bar, they're not even competing against each other, right? You would think that they are, and we like to categorize things. And we say, the candy bar people compete against candy bars, and the people that sell produce, they're competing against each other here. But that's not the case at all. They're being hired for different reasons. The Snickers bar is competing against a Red Bull, a Power Bar, an Apple, right? Because people are trying to plow through to eat something to give them energy to keep working. The Milky Way is actually competing against Magnum Bar, eating a brownie, going on a run, chatting with a friend. And so you see that they're being hired for different reasons. They're not even competing against each other. And so I wanted just to quickly, we're going to take a look at the before and after the Snickers bar. So the first video is going to be a quick commercial. This is what marketing looked like for Snickers before this jobs to be done was applied. So let's go ahead and play this. Commercial highlighting. Yeah. It was all about features and benefits, right? What was he singing about? The caramel, the whatever. Like he was talking about the nuts inside of it. He was talking about the nougat. It was all about features and benefits. It had nothing to do with the progress that people are trying to make when they're consuming that product, right? The second one, again, he's in this football coach. He's hungry. He's not feeling himself, but there's no way he can sit down and eat a 3-course meal right now, right? He has a job to get done right now. And so he needs something to just satisfy him so he can have energy to keep going. That's what it's highlighting, right? It's about the progress that he's trying to make. Let's see if I can. Okay. There are also 3 different types of jobs to be done. There are functional jobs, there are emotional jobs, and there are social jobs to be done. So a functional job is, what do I need this product to actually do for me? An emotional job is, how do I need to feel when I'm using this product? And a social job is, how do I need others to perceive me when I'm using this product? Okay? And A product could have all of these, or it could have only one of these. And maybe one is, maybe all three are important, but it skews towards one. So I'm actually going to have you help me out here. You make the call. I'm going to go through a list, and I want you to tell me if you think this is functional, emotional, or social. Deciding who to hire as a babysitter. Functional? Emotional? You think, is this an emotional job to be done? The emotional progress that's trying to be made? I would say more emotional. If it was functional, right? If all you had to do is just, you needed something or someone to just watch your kids while you're gone, you could hire some pretty scary babysitters, right? Okay, next one. Buying a watch. Why do you say social?
Because a lot of times if you're going to buy a watch and someone will look at it and learn it's what you see, so it's social, it's what other people do.
Yeah, right? I mean, this maybe 100 years ago it was more functional, but everyone has a cell phone now. You don't really need a watch, right? You have your phone, and there's clocks everywhere. So it's more of a social thing. How do I need to be perceived by others? Buying your kids organic food.
What about buying as a kid and emotion?
Say it again.
If you buy a watch as a kid for someone else, it would be emotional.
It could be, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. What about buying organic food for your kids? Is it social? You think it's social? What? Say it again.
I think you want some people would want to be perceived as really caring for their kids.
Right.
I buy organic, no, I buy only organic products, and you feel pretty proud that you want people.
Right. Yeah, and I don't want to cause any rifts here, right? But like you look at this and you think organic food, right? And it's organic, it's healthy, right? That's the progress. I want my kids to be healthy, but you dig into it a little bit and you see what's that progress you're trying to make when you're buying organic food. Is it really about being healthy, or is it about some other things? What progress are you trying to make? Next one. Remodeling your kitchen. Functional, emotional? Okay, who says functional? Okay, someone tell me why functional. Right here, why functional? Appliances don't work anymore. Absolutely, this has to be done. This kitchen's not functional right now. Why emotional?
Because it's a place where you spend a lot of time with your kids, so
Yeah.
you feel right with it.
Absolutely, thank you. Great. You can see in this case it could be both, or it depends on the person, it could be one or the other. Buying furniture from IKEA. Probably more functional, right? You're not buying furniture from IKEA typically to try to impress your neighbors when they come over to the house, right? Nothing against IKEA, but they're just kind of baseline furniture that you can buy. I mean, you can't put it together, right? Wearing perfume or cologne. Social, probably more social. How you're being perceived by others. Making a post on Facebook. What's that? Yeah, thank you, Jared. Yeah. No time for a shower today, right? This is purely serving a functional use for me. Making a post on Facebook. Emotional, definitely could be social, right? You can see how this can go different ways. Reading the newspaper. You're getting the idea. This could be functional. It could just be you just really want to hire that newspaper to make the progress of understanding what's happening in the world. It also could be social, right? You want to stay abreast of what's happening in the world so that you can have conversations with other people. A hospital buying an X-ray machine. This is probably an example of something that's more purely functional, right? You're not trying to impress people. It's not really an emotional connection. They just simply need this X-ray machine to get it to make progress, right? Okay, another example. Any like Disneyland goers, Disneyland fans in here? Yeah, Disneyland. Okay, why do people hire Disneyland? I saw a hand over here. Was it you? Why do you hire Disneyland?
Have a fun family time, magical time.
A magical time. You hear the word magical, right? On the very first time I got it out of someone, it's more than just fun, it's more than just memories, it's magical. You're hiring Disney to escape reality and go into a fantasy land right? And connecting with your favorite characters that you see on TV, right? That's why we hired Disneyland, okay? I have a problem. If you think back in 2001, Disneyland, if anyone's been to Disneyland, yes, in California, not Disney World, Disneyland. You've been to Disneyland. What's right across from Disneyland? California Adventure, built and opened in 2001. They opened up California Adventure, and they had these targets that they were going to get 7 million annual visitors. They opened up California Adventures, and it falls flat on its face. Anyone go to the California Adventure when it first opened? Why? Why do you think it fell flat on its face? You loved it? Okay, anyone else?
You have to get in the best seats. You have to get in the front to really get the best experience. You're in the back.
Okay, yes, over here.
It didn't match the same quality as the other park.
Okay, what do you mean by quality?
I guess the features that people desire in terms of the Disneyland way, the movies, the characters, it was a different concept.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to show you some pictures. Yeah, one more comment over here, yeah.
I just want to say that my kids love California Adventure, but I think it's when you get back in it and you're immersed in Cars Land.
Yes.
Cars Land can happen, you feel like you're part of it. But I think when it's kind of disjointed and you don't really have a connection with the characters,
Yep.
you have characters walking around, you don't really see.
Yep, absolutely. So here is a picture of what California Adventure looked like when they first opened it up. You see it says California there. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge, and they have these mountains and things like that. Again, this did not do very well. They didn't get the visitors they were hoping for. And 5 years later, they spent another $1 billion. They revamped the park, realized they made a mistake. And this is what it looks like today. The way that they built it is that it's supposed to be the way California would have looked when Walt Disney himself arrived to California in the 1920s, right? So that when you step into the California Adventures, you're stepping into California when Walt stepped into California. And so as you walk down the street, the main street there, all the shops, the stores, all the decorations, it's like you are in California in the 1920s, okay? Again, it's about this experience. Another picture. Let's see if we tell the difference. Look at this Ferris wheel. Nice sun on there, right? They didn't change anything about the ride except for what's different? Mickey Mouse is on there, right? Another example, Mulholland Madness. Great ride, right? What's different about it? Goofy Sky School. Nothing changed about the ride. All they did is rebranded it as Goofy's Sky School, and that's all that changed. Again, and then since then, they've added some new places. We mentioned Cars Land earlier. It's an incredible, I mean, they basically, if you've seen the movie Cars, they basically have recreated it in Disneyland. It's incredible. But what was missing here when we talk about the functional, the emotional, the social jobs to be done, the progress people were trying to make was they wanted to have this emotional connection to the characters they would see on TV. And when Disney did all the things on the left-hand side, those pictures I showed you, who were they competing against? They allowed themselves to start competing against the Six Flags of the world, right? Any other, lagoon here in Utah. It was really no different. It was like a bunch of carnival rides, right? They allowed themselves to compete against these other companies. When they built themselves around the job to be done, who can compete against them? No one. They basically have a monopoly over, going into a fantasy land, right, and connecting with these characters, because they built this around the job to be done. Okay. So, insights into jobs done are derived from stories, not statistics. Whenever people are trying to make progress, there are constantly four forces at play. Okay, so it all starts with the struggling moment. We're going to talk about these four forces that are at play whenever people are making decisions. So it starts with the struggling moment. Something's happening in my life. I have a struggle. I need to make progress. I have two choices. I can either do business as usual, keep hiring what I'm hiring right now, or I can hire a new behavior, a new product, a new service. So there are two forces that promote change, and there are two forces that block change. And to understand people's progress, it's important for us to understand these four forces. So force number one is the push of the situation. So there are forces pushing you to explore solutions that would get you out of your current situation. What is it about your current situation that's unfavorable, that's pushing you to change? The magnetism of the new solution. When I make a change and I decide on a new product or a service, there's something about that new solution that's going to pull me towards it. And by the way, there are sheets of paper on everyone's desk. There should be enough for everyone. If there's not, you can look over someone's shoulder. And it has descriptions of these 4 forces. And then a thing on the back that we're actually going to use for our case study that I told you about in a minute. The next force is the anxiety of the new solution. So these usually come in the form of questions that need to be answered about the new solution before I actually make progress. Before I actually pull the trigger to do the new thing. The habits of the present, the tug of historical allegiances and being used to a way of life. Something that's holding you back from moving forward because you're already used to this certain way of life. And for someone to change, to hire a new product, to hire a new service or a new behavior, the top 2 forces must be greater than the bottom 2 forces, right? So a couple quick examples. The professor that was here yesterday, his name was David Hawkins, yes. He was talking about his son and being, not drinking alcohol, right? In order for him to make his son make that progress, what was the thing? What was the bribe, quote unquote, of I'm going to pay for your car insurance or buy you a car? What would that fall into? The magnetism of the new solution. He was creating a magnet. The solution he wanted was being alcohol-free, and so he used that as a magnet. And all of his other reasons and research wouldn't do it, right? It had to be something strong enough to pull him in. A quick example: when my wife and I we had 2 kids. My wife got pregnant with our 3rd kid, and we realized, you know what? Like, this car is not going to do it for us anymore. We're going to have to get a bigger car. So we start this search process, and my wife, at the very beginning, we sat down and she said, look, I am not getting a minivan. It's not happening. We're buying an SUV, we're going to get a bigger car that's going to fit our family, and it's not going to be a minivan. For whatever reason, she didn't want a minivan. So we go into the market, and so what's the push of our situation? Going from 2 kids to 3 kids, we don't have room, we need more space, and so this is pushing us right into the market. We get into the market. The habit of the present isn't as relevant in this story, but the anxieties of the new solutions. We get in there and we have these questions though. It's, how are we going to have enough space for everything? We want to not just have 3 kids, but we want to have 5 kids. We knew this was coming, so we need to get something planned ahead that would give us the space. How are we going to afford this new vehicle, right? At the time, income's very limited. What are we going to do how are we going to afford this new solution? And so we can start going through these questions. And we go out to the marketplace and we start looking at the resumes of all these different cars and what we could hire to get the job done, the products we're trying to make. And it turns out that today we drive a minivan, right? We chose the minivan. My wife loves her minivan now, but it turns out that the minivan does the job better than any other car in the marketplace, right? It did the job better than the Suburban or the bigger cars, because minivans tend to have more storage space. Our car has that stow and go. You guys know what I'm talking about. I need mothers here to have that stow and go. It's amazing. The price tag was more affordable for our family. And then it has these convenient doors that open. So if my wife's walking out, we're walking out with the kids, we press the button, the doors open for us, right? So it had these convenience factors as well. And so we ended up choosing the minivan. The minivan had that magnetism more than the SUVs did. Okay, so any questions about this before we move on? We're going to move into a case study now. What we're going to do is we're going to do a mini case study about a fictitious character that I made up named Michael Smith. Okay? Very creative, Jake. All right. So, profile for Michael Smith. So pay attention because you're going to be working on this in just a minute with your teams. Michael is 31 years old. He's been married for 5 years. He has 2 children, ages 4 and 1. And he works in manufacturing plant operations. His annual income is $36,000 a year. He has completed 1 year of college education at age 23 and still has some debt from that experience. He rents a 2-bedroom, 900 square foot apartment. Okay, Michael, for the last 4 years, has been considering getting a bachelor's degree, going back to school. So what I want you to do now in your teams, the very first thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you, let's see how much time we have here. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to start off for you to just individually figure this out. So on your, everyone should have a piece of paper, and again, you might have to share. What I did is on one side of the paper, I wrote down a brief description of the 4 forces, so you can remind yourself. I wrote some questions that might help you think about this a little bit. And then on the other side, I wrote these 4 forces, these boxes and arrows. And so I'm going to give you 3 minutes individually first to go through each of those buckets. Actually, ignore the magnetism, the top right box, the magnetism of the new solution. Ignore that one for now. We're just going to focus on these 3 that are on the board. The push of the situation, the habit of the present, the anxiety of the new solution. I want you to write down for just take 3 minutes yourself. In fact, let's make it 2 minutes. Sorry. We're going to do 2 minutes. So you're going to have 2 minutes by yourself, and then we're going to give you some time as a team to discuss this as well. So go ahead and take 2 minutes and try to brainstorm what are the pushes, what are the habits, what are the anxieties that you think Michael might be going through. Go ahead. Start with the pushes of the situation. Share with me what are the pushes of Michael's situation here. Anyone? Let's start on this half of the room. Anyone? What are some of the pushes of Michael's situation?
Limited income and limited space.
Limited income and limited space. Absolutely. These are things pushing him out of his current situation. Anything else on the pushes? Yeah. Being a good provider for his family. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Interest in having a higher degree or either advancing his current job or anything.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say even interest in degree, it could be more about blazing a path for his kids, right? Maybe no one in his family has ever done this before. That could be another push, out of the situation.
And actually, think about our table, tied to
Yeah, right. The 4 years, right? When did this actually happen for him to start thinking about this? Yeah, absolutely.
Some of those aren't magnetism.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be.
I wanted to be like the person who say that for magnetism.
No, I agree with that too. I was saying the same thing, that it could be the bachelor's degree itself, right? He could be like, okay, what else could I hire? I have, low income. I have limited opportunities. We have limited space. Going out in the marketplace, what could I hire to get this done? A bachelor's degree is one of the things he could hire, right? He also could hire, what else could he hire?
Become an Uber driver.
He could become an Uber driver, right? He could go, I have more time during the day. Yeah, no, he could. What else could he hire? He could hire becoming an Uber driver. He could hire robbing a bank, right? That would give him some more money and income, right? But as he goes in the marketplace, he looks at, okay, well, I could, rob a bank, but that also goes against some of the other, against the progress that he's trying to make, right? Like, if part of it is being a good example for his kids, well, robbing a bank's not going to do that one, so I'm going to cross that option off the list. That's no longer a competitor for me. Okay, and anything else on the pushes? Yeah.
We talked about age.
Age?
31 is that old, but go to college and go back to college.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of that point where if I have more kids and I can't, I have to work while I go to college.
Yeah.
To support my family. Age is probably important.
Great, thank you. Yes, please.
To add to what we talked about here, also just societal expectations. So somebody mentioned here providing for a family, but there's kind of society judges, and so if you're going your own path and not taking care of your family, there's that judgment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, thank you. Okay, the next one. Let's talk about the habits of the present. What might be pulling him back for him not making progress? Habits of the present. Yes?
He does have a job.
He has a job. Yeah. He does have a job. Inertia, right? Keep up the status quo. The life is not, as great as we maybe like it to be. We don't have all these comforts, but at the end of the day, we do have a job, right? Anything else? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to be able, I mean, going back to school would be a big change, right? And it's like, well, we already kind of have this good thing going on with our kids. I wouldn't call it too much disruption with our family. Any other comments?
Did he fight always?
Say it again.
Did he fight over school when we had 1 year? Did he fight over school? Say he had 1 year.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. He could, yeah, absolutely. Maybe it, that 1 year didn't go very well. He still has debt from it, right? So it's like, man, I don't want to deal with even more debt, 3 more years. Absolutely, it's going to compound on itself. What about? Yeah, anxiety in the new situation, the debt. Absolutely, I don't want to go into more debt. What other anxieties in the new solution? Lack of family time, absolutely. Oh man, if I go back to school, I'm going to be away from my kids more. When am I going to study? How am I going to get this done?
What does it like do? I mean, like, if she is a stay-at-home mom, that's more parenting for her, but if she's out in the workforce as well, then there's a lack of parenting.
Absolutely. How are we going to make this work? How are we going to still be in sync as a family if I go back to school? Yeah, absolutely. Can I actually do this, right? Absolutely. Yep. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
Would you say does the 1 year classes that he did factor into his 4 years? That limit the amount of pay?
Yeah, that's a big one, right? Man, I don't even know. I took all these credits. Was that just a waste, or is there some way for me to transfer my credits towards my degree? I don't know. How am I going to figure this out? How am I going to pay for this, right? How do you get financial aid? Will I qualify for financial aid? Will I be able to get loans to be able to pay for this schooling, right? These are all anxieties that might be holding you back. Okay, now what I want you to do, we've discussed those 3 forces. Now we're going to innovate, okay? I want you to innovate. You now understand the progress he's trying to make. You understand these 3 different forces. Now you're going to do the 4th force, okay? If you were a university, how would you create a solution for Michael? Okay, given that these forces we've been talking about, I want you to talk as a team about what would you do? What would you create? What would it look like? How are you going to address these anxieties he has, the pushes that he has, the habits that he has? I want you to sit and talk about this as a team. So let's take, we're just going to make this quick. Let's just do like a 3-minute conversation amongst your team. You're going to prototype in 3 minutes what this ideal opportunity for Michael's going to look like. Okay, what are you going to do? Let's innovate. Go ahead. Start right now. 3 minutes. Anybody heard of Southern New Hampshire University? Anyone heard of them? They have done an unbelievable job really being pioneers into this space of online education to address the problems and concerns like Michael. So if you look at a traditional university versus an online, more of an online path, you look at the traditional university and they are, especially at the Southern New Hampshire University about, 7 or 8 years ago, if you were to go there and look at the structure of the university, it was the traditional college, the on-campus experience was given all the preferential treatment. It was all about the on-campus experience. There was an online, they did have some online things going on, but it was like, yeah, I think they are over in that corner somewhere or something. It was very much, off, not a priority for the school. Low response to inquiries, so when people called and had questions about financial aid or whatever, it would take often weeks for them to get back, which worked for the system, right? We're talking about college kids, they're thinking about going to school in maybe 9 months from now, maybe a year from now, and so having some time to get back to people on inquiries actually worked fine. The marketing was all focused around the on-campus college experience for young kids like that. Then they found out about jobs to be done, and they started building their university around these jobs to be done, similar to Michael Smith we talked about earlier. And so the online campus was given, the online program was given their own campus, their own buildings, their own space. They had this standard of like, we are going to get back to people quick. In the moment that they're thinking about it, these are parents who are tired and exhausted. If we're lucky that they're even considering us in the first place because they just got the kids to bed. They're likely, kids are now in bed. They're tired after their work day. They're now thinking about getting a college education. They're getting online. The moment that they give us an inquiry, we're going to get back to them quick, right? So they would get back to people within 8.5 minutes. If you put an inquiry online, 24/7, you got a phone call within 8.5 minutes. That was there. That was just what they did. Credits and financial aid solved within days, not weeks. So they had this 48 hours, we're going to get back to you about if your credits will transfer, and we'll figure out a solution for you for financial aid so you can have peace of mind about that. The marketing focused on the functional, the social, and emotional aspects of the job to be done. I'm going to show you a clip here in just a second about that. And then personal advisor, we mentioned that earlier. Every single time someone came to them, they immediately got assigned a personal advisor, even before they became an official student at the school. That advisor would talk to them about everything they needed to talk about. They would spend hours on the phone with you if you needed, just to talk about your situation, to help guide you through this entire process, to hold your hand through the process, right? Look at the results. You look back in 2010, enrollment at their traditional school was 2,500. Online, they had roughly 500 students. They built this around the job to be done. Just in 2016, they passed over 60,000 online students, bringing in over $400 million a year, growing it from 88 million back in 2010. You build around the job to be done, and that's where the power is going to come from, and people are going to be motivated because you're helping them make progress. You're helping them make progress. It's not about features and benefits, it's about progress. Just real quick, this is a 30-second little clip. Watch their marketing. Pay attention to the marketing that they do here.
Love you too, Dad. I will love you in Dad, your time! When the dew...
Functional. This is also a very emotional progress that people are trying to make here. And you can see in their marketing that people would be watching and be like, that is me. Absolutely, that's the progress I'm trying to make too, right? And so it pulls you in. It's not about the features and benefits, it's about the progress people are trying to make. All right, I think we're pretty close to the end of time here, so I'm just going to wrap up. So a couple takeaways that I would offer to you to continue to think about in your own areas of responsibility are find struggling moments. Again, if whatever you're trying to do is not addressing a struggling moment of the people you're serving, it's not going to work. Find those struggling moments. Focus on progress, not products and services. I think about digital citizenship and helping youth, for example, to use technology the right way. We can't be going to them with content and saying, this is what you should be watching, this is how you should be using technology, right? This is how you should be using technology. We can't be speaking at them and bringing to them products and services and trying to show them, features and benefits and telling them what to do. We have to understand the progress that youth are trying to make with technology and help them to develop products and services and develop processes to help them make the progress they're trying to make in a meaningful and responsible way. Stay focused on the progress that he or she, the people you're serving, is trying to make. Not on the progress you're trying to make or the progress you want them to make. You cannot force people to have a job to be done. It doesn't work. You can't force people to have the same jobs that you have, the same progress that you're trying to make. It doesn't work. You have to start with the individual and figure out what progress that person's trying to make. And that's where you need that's where you need to innovate. Understanding people, understanding progress. That's what this is all about. And so stay focused on that. That's all I have. I'm really grateful to have this opportunity and experience to speak with you all. I hope that there was just some little nugget there that might be helpful and useful to you in your situation, whether you're a parent or an educator or a legislator or whatever it may be. But I hope there was something that was useful to you today. I appreciate the time and thank you for your participation.